What's up, everybody, and welcome back to Enjoying the Review. I'm your host, Incomparable Zach Jones, and today I got a twofer for you. That's right, 2 episodes of Daredevil Born Again. So I will be reviewing and recapping episode 5 and 6, entitled With Interest and Excessive Force. Before I get into things, guys, please, if you will, subscribe to the YouTube channel. Like, comment, thumbs up, all those good things, positive reviews. And if you like, you can follow me on social media, either on Twitter at Zach Jones Live, ZachJonesLive, or on Blue Sky at Enjoying the Review. Okay, guys, let's get into it. So first of all, I gotta say, I didn't know they were going to drop 2 episodes this week, and from a reviewing side of things, I don't honestly like that they did that. And I just recently found out that Andor is going to be 12 episodes, and instead of doing them weekly, they're going to do 3 a week, which is just crazy to me. First of all, it makes me not want to review it because having to do like 3 to a clip kind of sucks from a reviewing point of view. But also, like, just from a monetary point of view, wouldn't you want to entice people to subscribe to your platform for 3 months rather than 1 month? It just doesn't make sense to me. These weird kind of release schedules they're trying, but who knows? So what did I think of these 2 episodes? Well, episode 5, and I saw a little complaining online because someone called this a filler episode, and someone complained that that term is like demeaning. And I get why someone might feel that way, because the term filler implies that it's unnecessary and doesn't really add anything of value. But to me, I think something can be acknowledged as a filler episode. Like, we all know what that is. Like, an episode that, kind of stands on its own but doesn't contribute to a wider narrative. Some people will call it a bottle episode, which I guess would be more respectful in this person's eyes. But to me, I don't think a filler necessarily has to be a bad thing. Like, in my opinion, episode 5 of Daredevil is a filler episode, but it's not bad. In fact, I would probably give it a 6.5 out of 10. And then episode 6, I'm probably going to give just a little bit more, like a 6.8 out of 10. And I'll kind of get into my reasoning. But yeah, the whole filler episode thing, like, I guess I can see if someone put all their hard work and energy into writing and creating that episode, somebody calling it a filler episode might anger them. But to me, I don't know. I just think it's a term we all know, and it doesn't necessarily denote value. I think something can be a filler episode and still be entertaining, still be a lot of fun. And I think episode 5 of Daredevil Born Again was, a pretty fun episode. So I want to say spoilers right off the bat so I can kind of go over some of the key takeaways I had here before I get into the nitty gritty of the episodes. So I guess the big takeaway from episode 5, because it was a filler episode or a bottle episode, is the connection to the wider Marvel universe, in that, Kamala Khan's father is in this. So we got the connection to Miss Marvel, Kamala Khan. And I gotta say, Marvel seems to be in love with Kamala Khan's family. They sprinkle them in a lot. They used them a ton in that Marvels movie, which I didn't like. I really didn't like. It was not written well. But he was a good he's a good actor, I guess, and he was enjoyable in this episode. They kind of tease it, like, towards the end of this episode, like, he invites Matt to dinner with his family, and a part of me is like, even though I like the Kamala Khan character, like, I don't need that. I don't need to see that. and I think it would be kind of. I mean, it might be interesting to explore like an episode where Daredevil teams up with Kamala, but at the same time, it's kind of a conflict of tones. So I don't know if overall I would really want to see it. But who knows? I'm sure somebody could do something entertaining with it. And then episode 6, I thought there was some, good character development all around. Um, but my thing is more sus action, guys. I mentioned when I reviewed the first episode, I really did not like that bullseye fight that kicked everything off. They added a lot of CG elements and quick cuts, and it looked pretty bad, I thought. And unfortunately, they did that again in the fighting towards the end of this episode. And I'm just like, I think they've already shot season 2, so I don't think we're going to get any improvement with season 2. But assuming this show goes to a season 3, I hope they will kind of put in the work to do practical fights again, because this show is definitely missing that element that the Netflix version of the show had, and it's sorely missing it. I really have not been a fan of the action thus far. And then the only other takeaway I had, even though I end up, relatively liking episode 6, is the ending is kind of nonsense because, in the end, he has to go save Angela, and this gives Muse the chance to escape. But my thing is they've already established that Daredevil, he can hear a mouse pissing on cotton 3 counties away. Are you telling me that brief moment like he took to save Angela's life, he now cannot hear Muse's, heartbeat and movement throughout the subway? I don't buy that. I think he could probably, if he wanted to, easily track him down. But it's kind of like I will. Even though it got kind of bad towards the end, I still am a fan of the CW Flash TV show. But just for the nature of the character being so fast, there's so many episodes where that same thing happens, where like the bad guy will put an innocent civilian in jeopardy, and Flash will go save that person. But the enemy, even if it's somebody who isn't a speedster, gets away, and it's like, well, are you telling me he couldn't run really fast and probably just find that person? So I guess you got to suspend disbelief a little bit. But yeah, I found that a little hard to believe that he couldn't track down Muse if he wanted to. I guess you can make the excuse where it's like, well, he just brought Angela back to life, and he wants to make sure she gets the help she needs, I guess. But I don't know. But guys, those are my big takeaways. So with that being said, let's get into the nitty gritty of the episodes here, and I'll discuss things I liked and didn't. So episode 5, entitled "With Interest," we start out at St. Patrick's Day. Everybody's celebrating. But Matt, he has a meeting at a bank. He's trying to get a bank loan, and they briefly set this up with a line in a prior episode. And the guy he's going to meet with, he's out for the day, the manager of the bank. But wouldn't you know it, he's meeting with the assistant manager, who just so happens to be Kamala Khan's father, Mr. Khan. I think is his name Yusuf, maybe? And so they start talking. And of course, he mentions Miss Marvel and his daughter Kamala. He doesn't say that she's Miss Marvel, but he ends up having a Funko Pop of Miss Marvel, and he's a big fan of hers and everything. He tells Matt that Matt's law firm is over leveraged, but he keeps on working with clients who are unlikely to be able to pay. Matt tells him that. He's like, have you ever needed a defense attorney? Because it can be, David versus Goliath. and he tries to kind of appeal to Mr. Khan by mentioning that, he represents regular people, sons, daughters, wink, wink, regular people. And Mr. Khan tells him that his compassion and qualities are the things that make him a great defense attorney, but also make him ineligible for the bank loan. So Matt says, like, that's the nicest no he's ever gotten or something like that, and he leaves the bank. And right when he leaves, guess who's showing up? Of course, the ever-popular Irish gang in America that must have came straight off the boat from Ireland. They all speak with Irish accents. As I've said in earlier episodes, this has to be a thing, right? It's in so many shows, the modern-day Irish gang. By the way, if anybody has any information that's something we really have in America these days, it's like, I mean, true, like, Irish accent, like, gangs. I want to know about it. Anyway, they show up to rob the bank, and the gang starts, they start beating people up. In the chaos, Mr. Khan sneaks into the back room. Matt is walking away. He's on the phone with Kirsten. And he tells her that they didn't get the bank loan. But then he can hear the bank robbers, because again, he can hear many blocks away. And I found this a little bit stupid, as he's just like, he tells her to call 911 and doesn't give her any details. He just hangs up the phone and goes back to the bank. Couldn't he give her a little more information and be like, oh, shoot, the bank's being robbed. Please call 911 right now. Of course, she doesn't know he's Daredevil, so wouldn't she probably just be like, can you call 911? But whatever. Apparently it works, because the cops eventually get there. Mr. Khan gets caught by one of the robbers when he's trying to make a phone call in the back room, but he gets caught, and they round him up and put him next to all the other civilians in the bank. So Matt walks into the door of the bank, and they make him get on his knees next to Mr. Khan. The robbers threaten to kill anyone who tries to move, and Matt tells him that if they do kill anyone, their felony burglary charge will turn into a murder charge, and they will be looking at 25 to life. So one of the robbers, he hits Matt in the stomach with his gun. The robbers are looking for the bank manager, who, Mr. Khan revealed earlier, he's not in today. The cops end up showing up and surrounding the building, so the robbers are kind of surprised, like, hey, how'd they get tipped off so soon? So one of the robbers asked Mr. Khan where the bank manager is, and he says he won't be in for a couple hours. They can see on his badge he's the assistant manager, so they ask him if he can open the bank vault, and he tells them yes. Matt overhears one of the robbers tell one of the other robbers, I didn't know what to make of this exactly. He says, nothing changes. They do them, we do us. So I guess that's just his way of, like, saying, like, we're going to stick to the plan. Like, the cops are going to do their thing, we're going to do our thing. I don't know. The way he whispered it, I'm like, are we supposed to be making more of this than it is? But not really. So two of the robbers go into the back room, and they mention that, I guess because the cops are here, they got to do plan B. So the plan is for one of the robbers to stay and keep an eye on the hostages. One of them, the guy given the plan right now, he's going to handle talking to the cops. And then one of them is going to take Mr. Khan downstairs to open the vault. Matt can tell by Mr. Khan's heartbeat that he was lying about being able to open the vault. So he tells him that when the robber takes him downstairs to the vault, which I think he says is like 4 floors down or something, he's like, just stall him as long as you possibly can. Detective Kim, who was like the Asian woman detective we briefly met in episode 1, she shows up and she's going to be the hostage negotiator. And so she gets a call from the robber in charge. And he tells her he wants 3 armored vehicles to rob the bank. She tells him to release 2 hostages as a sign of good faith. And he agrees to that. And he tells the other robber that he will do it just like the boss says to make them think that they are in control. And I believe they established before they went into the bank that their boss is Luca. He's like one of the head of the family type guys, and he'll make an appearance in the next episode. The robbers choose a woman and Matt to be the hostages let go. And the woman does not want to leave her. She just got married to a new husband, so it's like she really wants to take him with her. And Matt asked the robbers to let him, the husband take his place because he's like, don't take pity on me because I'm blind. And there's kind of this conversation between the lead robber in charge and Matt. And Matt tells him about how he was a blind orphan. And, this guy is kind of amused by his story. So he allows the switch. So the husband gets to leave. Matt has to stay. One of the robbers takes Mr. Khan downstairs. And then one of the hostages says he thinks the bank only has a few safety deposit boxes and not much money in it. And then one of the female hostages says she bets it's diamonds they're after. Bum, bum, bum. And that'll, of course, for anyone who watched the episode, that'll come back. The robbers yell at Matt to get on his knees besides the other hostages, but he tells them he really needs to go to the bathroom. So while one of the robbers takes Matt to the bathroom, he listens to Mr. Khan, who is trying to stall the robber in the vault. So Matt makes his move. He ends up choking out this robber that's escorting him. And there's this whole thing where he's got to stay quiet. So the robber drops his gun. He's got to catch it so it doesn't make noise. And he ends up taking this guy outside. So the robber downstairs, he puts it together that Mr. Khan lied about being able to open the vault. So he's about to shoot him. But luckily, Matt shows up just in the nick of time. He knocks out the robber, and Mr. Khan is saved. So then Matt gets on the radio and he puts on a fake Irish accent and tells the robber in charge on his walkie-talkie that he's almost inside the vault. He then uses his super hearing to break into the vault. One thing about Matt is everybody might as well know he's Daredevil because there's so many people who get to see him do extraordinary things as just Matt Murdock. But it seems, I guess somebody could say, okay, yeah, he's blind, so his hearing's better, and maybe believe this. But it's when he beat up Officer Powell at the end of the second episode and his buddy, you would think they would be okay, this guy's got to be enhanced somehow. He can't be blind and be doing this well. I think they would kind of suspect something. So Detective Kim tells the robber in charge that she needs another hour to get his armored vehicles ready. He tells her that if she can tell him a joke that makes him laugh, he will give her 3 more hostages. It turns out to be true that the only thing in the bank vaults is safety deposit boxes and no cash. So Matt's kind of wondering, hey, what are these guys actually up to? Matt gets, it turns out each deposit box takes a customer key and Mr. Khan's key to open. So Matt searches the robber's body that he knocked out, and he finds the key, but one of the numbers is like worn off. So they got to try several different boxes before they find the right one. Build some tension. So while they're trying various boxes, Detective Kim, she scrambles to get a joke. She gets this Irish joke that she's telling the robber. And he does end up laughing, but then he tells her that she has exactly 10 minutes before he shoots the first hostage. And Matt, of course, overhears him saying that. So they finally find the correct safety deposit box, and inside they find a valuable yellow diamond. Matt hears the SWAT team gearing up outside. They're going to go into the bank. They're like, negotiations have failed, so now we're preparing to infiltrate the bank. So Matt knows he's running out of time. So Matt and Mr. Khan go upstairs, and Matt tells the robbers to let the hostages go while they still can. He tells them that the police are no longer negotiating. The robber threatens to shoot a hostage, and Matt tells him that he did not come here to kill anyone. He came here for this, and he shows him the diamond. The robber asks Matt how he got the diamond, and he tells him that it was on one of the other men. He tells the robber that he will give him the diamond if he lets everybody go. So this guy, he aims his gun at Matt. He's about to shoot. So Matt tosses him the diamond. And at the same time, the SWAT team enter the building. They throw down like a gas grenade. So all the robbers end up getting taken out by Matt and the SWAT team, except for the one guy in charge. He sneaks into a back room, and he changes into a police uniform to blend in and escape. Matt ends up hearing him give the diamond to the woman, the female hostage from earlier, who mentioned that it was probably diamond. So she's the inside woman. And he tells her to get the diamond to Luca. Matt pretends to be injured so that he can get out of the building. And then he puts on, all the robbers had different color masks. Which one did he get? Of course, he got the red mask. So he follows this guy. He puts on the red mask, and they begin to fight. A pretty unremarkable fight. It ends pretty quickly with Matt he basically breaks this guy's legs. Like, I don't know if anyone saw the terrible Harley Quinn Birds of Prey movie, but towards the beginning of that movie, she breaks the guy's legs in kind of a similar, like, gruesome manner. My thing is, like, did Matt really need to, like, cripple this guy for life? Like, couldn't he just, like, take him out? It seemed this is the episode that should have been called Excessive Force right there. But also kind of an unremarkable fight. And once they, like, break his legs, like, they cut so quickly out of there, like, because, like, I guess they don't want it to be too gruesome. I don't know. We've already established that they're allowing violence on this show, so I don't know. It didn't seem like they had to cut quite so quick, but they did. So the female hostage, she opens up the jewel pouch, and inside is a butterscotch candy. So apparently, we can put it together that guy, the robber in charge, he went into business for himself. He stole the diamond. So Matt goes back to the bank to check on Mr. Khan, and Mr. Khan invites him to dinner with his family, like I mentioned. Again, I don't know if I actually need to see that episode, but, maybe they can do something with it. Matt tries one of the butterscotch candies on Mr. Khan's desk, and then he leaves, and then Mr. Khan finds the yellow diamond in the candy dish. So Matt, he did the old switcheroo, and he put it back there. So again, I would call it a filler episode. But again, not necessarily a knock. It was still entertaining enough. Like I mentioned at the top, I would give it a 6.5. I think it was just okay. Not great, not terrible, totally watchable. Fun enough. So let's get into the episode I thought was slightly better. Episode 6, excessive force. So this one opens up on another one of those BB reports. And interesting enough, this guy's like, a couple guys talking about how they feel kind of like they're glad that vigilantes are out there helping. And one of these guys shows a video of a guy like in a hoodie, like brandishing a sword, and he calls him like he's like, there's this swordsman vigilante. And of course, the first place my mind goes is that the swordsman from the Hawkeye series. Again, I didn't like that series, and I thought it was kind of cheesy to have the swordsman gimmick there. But when I saw that, it reminded me of that guy, but I'm like, I don't think it is that guy, and I still don't. But then, oddly enough, we do see that swordsman guy later on in this episode. So I don't know if they're trying to make us think that, maybe it was him, but I don't think so. So next, a construction worker finds the body of Muse's victim from the last episode. And it looks like his eyes have been taken out. So next scene, a city worker starts pressure washing one of Muse's graffiti pieces, trying to take it down. And it's basically shows Fisk like kissing like a bull's ass. It calls him a kiss ass with like dollar signs, and so the bull market, basically insinuating that he's, sucks up to people for money, which he'll have to at least attempt to do in this episode. Now it goes over to Matt. Matt recites a Bible verse while reflecting on his past use of violence as well as Foggy's death. So I don't know if we're supposed to maybe think that Matt, well, I think we are, that Matt, because of his religious upbringing, is conflicted about using violence. And that's part of the reason why he stopped being Daredevil. And he definitely used excessive violence in the last episode, even though he wasn't Daredevil. I mean, I guess that's one of the big intriguing points about Matt. He's always conflicted because inevitably when he's Daredevil, he's forced to do things that are, un-Christian or un-Catholic. But at the same time, I don't think you can always go back to that well where he's just like always like, oh, I can't be Daredevil anymore. I'm going to, at some point he kind of has to come to accept it and so we don't have to revisit this a million times and he can just be Daredevil. Matt tells Heather that because she asks him about praying, and he's like, I've stopped praying a few times over the years, but I always end up coming back to it. So now we move over to Fisk in the mayor's office, and he gets an unexpected visit from Luca, who again is the mastermind of that bank robbery and one of the heads of the crime families. Although it seems like he's the head of the Irish gang, and he doesn't really have the Irish accent, which is kind of weird. I don't know. And they got this like dichotomy thing going on all the time, showing that Matt and Fisk are foils, and they're kind of, even though they have opposite goals, they sometimes use the same means, and they kind of, Matt has the secret personality of Daredevil, but now Fisk has these two identities of like law-abiding mayor versus a kingpin of crime, that sort of thing. So Heather tells Matt that her next book is going to be about vigilantes and why people revere the mask. Fisk tells Luca that he will give him until the end of the week to give Victor the $1.8 million he owes him, but he refuses and tells Fisk to shove it. So Fisk tells him to make it $2.8 million, and the other $1 million is going to go to Fisk. We switch back over. Heather has a monologue about masks and if they allow people to be their true selves or if they strip away their identity and allow them to act like animals. She asked Matt if he could set up with some of the vigilantes he's met through his work as a lawyer, like Frank Castle. And Matt kind of laughs and scoffs at the idea of her meeting with the Punisher. And she says, well, okay, then, if I can't meet with him, how about Daredevil? You've worked with him, right? So now back over. Luca tells Fisk that he's out of the game and he better stay out. So he's being very, defiant towards Fisk. Fisk tells him he has until the end of the week to get the money, and then his time is up. So next, back in the mayor's office, Luca leaves, but now the city worker we saw earlier meets with Fisk and tells him that getting the graffiti down is going to be harder than he thought, because apparently it's made of human blood, but not only that, it's covered in some sort of epoxy that makes it very difficult to come down. So Fisk tells Sheila to get Commissioner Gallo in his office right now. So now we switch over to Matt, but this time he's at the law firm. Matt and Kirsten have a business meeting when Hector's niece Angela shows up. She tells Matt that her uncle was onto something, that he was investigating something, and that's why he was killed. He remembers Hector telling him that people will go missing and that no one seemed to care when they had their conversation in prison. He tells her that this is a matter for the police, and she says that the police killed her uncle and that she is not going to them. But, Matt kind of has a point in that, even though he helped her uncle as a lawyer, why would she really think he could help in a case like this? He is a blind lawyer to her. She should not even have an inkling that, he can solve this case, be a detective. So it does seem kind of weird. Not that she necessarily wouldn't go to the police, but that she would go to him. But I guess, she helped the uncle, so maybe she thinks he would help her. And, he tries to tell her that he's not the police, and she chastises him for not doing anything. She says that her uncle told her, don't rely on anyone to do what you can do for yourself. And she's like, it's true. So that line there gives us the feeling that she's going to go off and do something, stupid that she should do, which of course is exactly what she does. So yeah, as I said, there's, I think, more information about how Muse, paints the graffiti in the blood, and he puts the epoxy over top and makes them impervious to be taken down. So the police have found at least 5 unique DNA profiles for each graffiti painting, estimating that there is at least 60 different victims. So they're making this guy a very high count serial killer. So this is in the mayor's office. He's there with the police commissioner and a few other people, including Detective Kim. So, that you assume that when Matt meets with Cherry later, she's kind of the person that gives him the lowdown on all this. Somebody suggests alerting the public, but Fisk starts to laugh and says that will only alert the killer, and that he will go underground and then, pop up again later. So he says he doesn't want any part of this to leave the room. He says that if the sanitation department finds out there's a serial killer before the NYPD does, maybe it's time to switch up the protocols. And so we'll find out what he means by that in a bit. So now we get a scene where 2 women stumble upon Muse painting a new graffiti piece, and then he seemingly attacks them because kind of motions towards them, and then we hear them scream. Fisk tells Vanessa that politics is about finding what someone loves and then either providing it or withholding it. And so that, tells you a lot about Fisk right there. And then we see a montage of Fisk talking to wealthy people. Like I said, one of which is the swordsman from the Hawkeye series. And then the other is a wealthy woman that tells Fisk that his port project is just a way of using taxpayer money to enrich himself. Again, seems like another swipe at Trump or comparison. Both her and the swordsman threaten Fisk if he does not stay in line with what the rich want. We do see, though, that in the scene between Vanessa and Fisk, where she's helping him get ready to go to this thing, she's smiling. She seems like she's getting along with Fisk in this moment. So Cherry meets with Matt. He tells Matt what he heard about the serial killer and that the police are going into a DEFCON scenario. Matt seems, surprised when he hears about, the estimate of 60 victims for this killer. Cherry tells him that he is a graffiti artist that goes by the name Muse, and also that he paints with the victim's blood. Cherry tells Matt to let this one go and let the police do their jobs. Back over to Fisk, Daniel, his suck-up staffer, he shows Fisk a picture of a new graffiti painting. And the two women from earlier are now dead and posed in front of the graffiti. So now Muse is incorporating the dead bodies into his artwork. We get another BB report where people are saying they no longer feel safe. Okay, so Fisk creates a task force, basically with all the Punisher worshipping cops, Officer Powell and his ilk. And he tells the commissioner that he will not make them wear body cameras. So, he's basically encouraging violence. Fisk meets with this task force, one of which is a man named Cole North. And his story is he got demoted for intimidating a drug dealer into making a confession. Now, I believe, I might be wrong, but I think Cole North is a detective featured in Chip Zdarsky's run on Daredevil. And in that series, I think he was like a good cop, and Daredevil had accidentally killed his criminal brother. So it seems like if that's the character, they're going a different kind of route with him. But the fact that they named it makes me think they're going to use him more in the future. Fisk refers to this task force as his anti-vigilante task force. So he's definitely cracking down on vigilantes. Angela investigates the old subway line, so she's going off half-cocked, and gets in trouble. And in this scene, I think we hear footsteps behind her, but we don't see Muse actually attack her. But then it cuts to Matt getting a call from Hector's wife, and she says Angela did not come home. Matt calls 911, but then decides, he's like, oh, screw it, and he decides to suit up as Daredevil instead. So this, gets him back in the game finally. So now we switch over, and Muse did in fact attack Angela. He's carrying her body into his, hidden lair in the subway. He injects her with something, and then he inserts the tube inside of her to start removing her blood. So now we go over to Fisk. He goes back down to the basement where he's holding Adam prisoner. And he gives Adam an axe, and he tells him that a simple tool can be a great equalizer. Back over to Muse. Muse begins to drain Angela's blood, and then he hears a noise. So he goes to investigate. And he must have really good hearing as well, because there's a subway train going, but he can still hear that, oh, there's something besides the subway. And sure enough, the subway car finishes going by, and he sees something, and it's Daredevil. And Daredevil shows up, and they begin to fight. While at the same time, Adam takes a swing at Fisk with the axe, and they begin to fight. So Fisk basically beats the hell out of Adam, and he screams, "Mine!" Basically saying Vanessa is mine. And then Daredevil and Muse are fighting as well. And again, like I mentioned earlier, I don't enjoy the fighting here. They definitely mix in some CG elements. They're doing quick cuts, and it just does not look quite right. Not great, and that's why I'm saying, like, I'm hoping in the future they go back to more practical looking fights. Daredevil begins choking out Muse, but then he starts to hear Angela's heartbeat slowing down. So he has no choice. He lets Muse down, and he begins chest compressions on Angela. Fisk throws Adam back in his cell. And then finally back over to Matt. Matt is able to save Angela, but I wrote Muse inexplicably gets away. Because like I said, yeah, he took a little bit of time. He saved Angela. But his hearing is so good, I have to imagine that he could still hear Muse and get to him if he wanted to. But, they had to let him get away, fight another day somehow, I guess. So, yeah, that's it. Neither one of these, is my favorite episode of Daredevil this season, but they're competent. Again, the one I would describe as a filler episode, but that's not necessarily a bad thing. It's fine. But guys, I'm curious what you guys think of this, either of these episodes. So if you will, comment down below and let me know. But I think that will do it for today's show. So as I mentioned earlier, please, if you will, subscribe to the channel, thumbs up, comments, positive reviews are always welcome. You can also listen in audio form on your podcast catcher of choice. And you can follow me on social media, either on Twitter at Zach Jones Live, ZachJonesLive, or on Blue Sky at Enjoying the Review. But guys, until next time, I hope you're enjoying the review. Bye, guys.